This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we interview creators, discuss our favorite folklore, and share original spooky stories. I'm Jeff C. Carter. This week, we're talking with Rick West about MIDSUMMER SCREAM. Rick West is the co-founder and creative director of MIDSUMMER SCREAM, the world's largest Halloween and horror fan convention. By day, he is a creative director and show writer, helping to design theme parks and attractions for clients around the world. When not working on MIDSUMMER SCREAM or designing new attractions, Rick relaxes at home with his rightfully spoiled black cat, Jawa. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Icebreaker question. How much fog juice do you consume in a given year?
The doctor said I need to cut back on that. But honestly, I don't own a fog machine, if you can believe that. So there you go.
I mean, if you just pinch your nose for 5 seconds, I imagine you can just exhale volumes of fog juice.
Probably. I probably have all this secondhand fog from the Hall of Shadows stays with me all year.
Yeah. Not to mention all the home haunts you visit and things like that.
Oh, God, yes. Yes. My clothing probably permanently smells like fog juice.
Which has to be one of my favorite smells. And I know that, especially at events like MIDSUMMER SCREAM or these haunted markets where people bring out all sorts of wild scented candles. Have you ever seen a fog juice scented candle?
That's a good question. I'm sure it exists. It's got to exist.
If it doesn't exist, TM, Rick and I are going into business.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
There you go. That's the new career. Yeah, I'm sure. Come on. If they've got stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean water and Haunted Mansion smell, I'm sure that somebody has created a Halloween fog juice type smell.
That is a candle I would buy, or at least a vape cartridge. I don't vape, but maybe I would start. It would just be pure fog juice, nothing in it. So, Rick, we met last year at Delusion, the Red Castle in Los Angeles. So remind me, what did you think of the Red Castle?
It was one of my favorite of all the Delusions. I've been to all the shows that John has mounted over the years, and it was one of my favorites. I loved it. I thought the location just couldn't be beat. Like the aesthetics of the outside of this thing that's so strangely just plopped in the middle of Los Angeles, not too far from USC. I'm sure I've been by it a million times, and I had never even eyeballed it once. And walking up, we were just kind of like, what's this? It's kind of... It was very reminiscent to me of like the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, right? It had that type of old Hollywood castle aesthetic with it, and I thought it was great. So not only was it, I think, probably the most impressive location just visually upon arrival, it was one of my favorite shows that he's done.
If it weren't for Delusion, I would never know about all these crazy buildings in Los Angeles that are hiding in plain sight.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Los Angeles, has such a crazy history and so many layers of really kind of buried architecture within neighborhoods. You could have newish businesses or apartment buildings, and then suddenly there's this old Victorian type mansion, kind of like in the movie Up. Right. Like the old guy that didn't want to sell, It is really interesting to see the different locations that John Braver and his team have scouted over the years. And, kudos to them. It's never easy what they do. And every time they mount a show, it just looks easier and easier. And we know that it's probably more and more difficult, actually.
So what does creative director and show writer mean in the theme park world?
Wow. Okay. So for at least the last, 15 plus years now, I've worked in attraction design for different companies. Basically, a show writer is the once upon a time guy. So somebody comes and says, we want to have a Wild West roller coaster through like mines and caves and stuff. What can we come up with? So you'd say, once upon a time, there was an old frontier town known as Rainbow Ridge. And it was, and you build on that and say it was haunted by restless spirits. And suddenly you have a big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And so I'm the blank page guy. And people then take that to storyboard. They take that to the different art departments. They take that to engineering to figure out how are we going to make the mine blow up at the end. And everybody, survives in one piece. So in a very small nutshell, that's show writing. And then creative directing is kind of overseeing the entire process of bringing something together and having, of course, probably the biggest chip on the table when it comes to like creative say on things like that. I've really focused most of my time on MIDSUMMER. At the same time, getting ready to move later this year to Las Vegas. And I have a laundry list of my own projects that I want to do once I'm boots on ground in Las Vegas. But MIDSUMMER is not going anywhere. MIDSUMMER will stay in Long Beach. I will come back and forth. People that don't know me won't even know that I don't live here. But, you know, the pandemic taught us that we could do pretty much anything in our underwear on the couch. So it doesn't matter whether I'm here in Los Angeles working on MIDSUMMER or 4 hours away in Vegas, you know, working on MIDSUMMER. We'll get it done and it will always be bigger and better. And when I need to be here, it's only a 4-hour drive. And I love the desert. I love driving across the desert. It's a beautiful drive. And if I really, really, really need to be here, it's a 40-minute flight into Burbank and then a 10-hour drive down to Long Beach.
So this brings us to MIDSUMMER SCREAM, its origin story.
It was a dark and stormy night. No, so originally we had a show called SoCal-O'ween that we produced, me and David Markland, and he had another business partner at the time. They asked if I wanted to jump in with them and create a Halloween event. David has extensive event planning in his wheelhouse, but he didn't have the far reach into the haunt community that I had. So it was kind of like a match made in October. I said, okay, sure. And SoCal-O'ween was really successful. And so we did that for 3 years. And at year 3, there had been a very large internal rift. And David and his business partner went their separate ways. And I felt that he was treated very poorly and unfairly. And so about 80% of everybody that worked on SoCal-O'ween went with him, and we created MIDSUMMER SCREAM. And that was in, oh God, I want to say we did that. We created it in, I want to say March of 2016. And then we had like 4 months to literally create the show and open our first show that summer at Long Beach Convention Center, which I would never recommend for anybody unless they already had a lot of event planning and know-how under their belts. I don't know literally of any other team that could have pulled it off like that, but we did, and kind of the rest is history. I mean, luckily SoCal-O'ween had a really great trajectory and explosive growth. I think this is a drinking game. I think I've said explosive so many times now already. So if you haven't started, bottoms up.
All right.
And we just our trajectory was crazy with that. And then, you know, when that all fell apart, it was kind of devastating, but we didn't really have time to lick our wounds. We literally had to come up with everything, including the name. I named MIDSUMMER SCREAM. And originally it was going to be just a festival. We wanted a small scale festival with maybe live bands, food and beverage, and vendors and some entertainment. And so for the first few years, we were known as MIDSUMMER SCREAM Halloween and Horror Festival. Sometimes you can find old logos of ours online. That's what that comes from. But very, very rapidly, we knew right away that, well, we want to do a festival, but still we have our partners, Universal and Knott's, that are saying, well, what are you guys going to do? We're going to come with you, do whatever you're going to do. And suddenly we embiggened very, very, very rapidly.
Explosively.
It was, you said it, but take a drink. But you know, it was one of those situations where we never really were a festival. It was another convention. I mean, it started as another convention, and it's grown. We take up the entirety of the Long Beach Convention Center at this point. We have. I mean, we've hit capacity. I think the past 2 or 3 years now we've done it. We're at capacity at the Long Beach Convention Center. So it's been a crazy ride and a very successful ride. Just something that I'm just personally very grateful for, because not everybody gets that experience in life. And, you know, wherever it goes from here, it's all because of where we've been.
I attended SoCal-O'ween every year, absolutely loved it. And it is amazing to see how it has changed and evolved into this monster of MIDSUMMER SCREAM. I remember, I think it was the first year after COVID when MIDSUMMER SCREAM came back, and we went down there and we thought we were getting there early. Oh boy, the turnout, the pent up desire to congregate in the Halloween community was just through the roof.
Yeah, we had, so when things were starting to open up after the pandemic, we did a smaller version of the show called Awaken the Spirits. Mm-hmm. It was a very small version of Midsummer. When we were able to fire up all cylinders, the fans were there. The fans were there waiting for it. The community was there with all of their love and support. I had our team print a banner that we hung. As you go down onto the show floor, you go down the escalators at the Long Beach Convention Center. And I came to the team and I said, what has made us successful has always been our attention to the little details, because the little details add up to a whole lot of your vibe and what you are. I said, we need to have a banner that says, welcome home, because this is a homecoming. And the team was kind of like, you think? And I was like, yeah, we need to. And they all agreed. They said, sure, yeah, we can do that. And so we printed up a banner that said, welcome home, spooky kids. And everybody and their mother came down. I stood there at the base of the escalators and watched people take pictures. People started crying when they saw that. And it was an emotional thing because we had all been through a hell of a thing. We had the worldwide, we've all been through just this life changing event. And so to see everything open back up and to see all of our Midsummer family come flooding back through the entrance of the convention center, just to be able to come down and just tell them welcome home, it was an honor.
For someone who has never been, can you give an overview of the different areas of the convention center?
First and foremost, you got to understand MIDSUMMER SCREAM, when we say it's a Halloween and horror convention, it's the mothership. It was really funny. Like people that I knew that were really close friends of mine, they didn't come for the first few years, and then they came, and including, family members or whatever. And anytime you say to somebody, you have the world's largest Halloween and horror convention, it's always kind of like, oh, that's cute. That's really cool, And then they get there and they're like, holy crap, there's a lot of people. It took me an hour and a half to find parking. I was like, I wasn't kidding when I say, we draw crowds now easily more than 50,000 people a year come to MIDSUMMER SCREAM. It's a large show. I think it's the largest show that they have at Long Beach all year long every year. MIDSUMMER SCREAM has been described accurately as the Comic-Con of Halloween. So I tell people, when I have a 30-second elevator pitch, take everything that you would find at Comic-Con and swap that all out for spooky stuff. And that's MIDSUMMER SCREAM. So getting into that, we have 400 plus or whatever vendors on the show floor, which is a lot. You could spend the entire weekend and you still won't see all the vendors. We have live entertainment. We have panel presentations, world-class panel presentations. Our main stage is in the grand ballroom every year upstairs and seats about 2,000 people. And that's where we have presentations from our partners at Universal. They come out and talk about Halloween Horror Nights. John Murdy will come and very often bring special guests like Slash will come, and they'll talk about different aspects of what they do. Knott's Berry Farm has been with us, since the beginning for years. And they come and give their presentation, and Queen Mary's Dark Harbor, Six Flags, Magic Mountain. We have panel presentations by Winchester Mystery House. They've been with us since the very beginning. We have presentations by film studios. Lionsgate has come out and done presentations. Warner Brothers has done things with us. So world class as far as the panels and presentations. And then we scale it all the way down to presentations that are very, very niche. One of my longtime friends, Dan Biernowski, he's a sound designer, and he is known for years, he did all the sound for all the mazes and all the ambient stuff at Knott's Scary Farm. And so he has, through the years, we have a robust education offering where, you could be with 50 to 100 people in a room talking to somebody like Dan, where he breaks down how to do the music and sound effects for a maze, like at Knott's Scary Farm. So we scale it up and down and have something for everyone. Literally, there's something for kids. At MIDSUMMER SCREAM, we have a Paranormal Pixies pumpkin patch, which is on the vendor show floor. And they have things for kids to do, arts and crafts and entertainment all day. And then we have things like Zombie Joe's, which is definitely adults only, And so we have everything and everything in between. So it's really interesting because people will say to me, well, what's your demographic? And I just say, yes. If you're breathing pretty much and you enjoy Halloween and or scary things, yes, come, because there's something there for you. And then we have, of course, what I think really makes us stand out from most other conventions is we have the Hollow Shadows. And this is a very large area where I invite different haunts and attractions and home haunters and pro haunters to come, and they set up mini walkthrough attractions. They set up yard displays. They set up photo ops, and we turn all the lights off in this hall, fill it with fog, and it's like you're at a Halloween theme park all weekend. That is my main focus year round. It takes about 18 months for a midsummer show to come to fruition. I work very hard on bringing a really kind of robust offering into the Hall of Shadows. Everything from mom and pop, yard displays to last year we had a maze by Lionsgate Entertainment. It's something for everybody in the Hall of Shadows, and I think it's probably the most unique part of Midsummer Scream. I love the entire show. I helped create it, but I do think that Hall of Shadows is kind of that's the ace in the pocket, right? That's the ace up the sleeve, is the Hall of Shadows. We have people that come and spend all 3 days, like literally just in the Hall of Shadows, because it's that Halloween vibe, it's that theme park vibe, and they love it. And God bless them, because that's what we do it for, right? I think the Hall of Shadows is, I call it a weekend-long art exhibition, because what these haunters do, it is art. It's an amazing feat. It's a Herculean feat to create the Hall of Shadows. And it's there. It's alive. It's this living, organic, beautiful thing for 2.5 days. And then it's gone forever. The only way you can find it is on YouTube if people happen to take pictures or video or flow throughs or whatever. So it's definitely an art installation. Just that gets bigger and better every year and crazier. And so I'm very, very proud of what we've done with Hall of Shadows and Midsummer Scream in general.
How does that come about? How do you pick who comes in, who goes, how much floor space they have, how much time they have to load in or pack out?
Like I said, Hall of Shadows is such a wild thing. Hall of Shadows is just this crazy beast that has gotten bigger and bigger and just more involved and intricate every year. When we started doing Scare LA, we had one room at the Pasadena Convention Center. I think it was our 3rd year when we were at the Pasadena Convention Center, because we did the first 2 years at the Reef downtown in Los Angeles. Moved to Pasadena, had more room to play, and we had an area where I had a few of the haunts that I was familiar with set up little mini haunted attractions. And that was the seedling that would become Hall of Shadows when Midsummer was born. And we really know that we wanted to dedicate a space to that.
So you have mentioned many times boots on the ground, how important it is to get boots on the ground. You've also mentioned the width and breadth of home haunts and yard displays. That's something you do for the latter half of the year. You literally go around and document and visit all of these home haunts.
I do. I spend the entire, literally from the time Midsummer's over with, I will pack it in and just travel all over, mostly Southern California, because you can literally go out every night of the week and find a myriad of home haunts and yard displays to look at, and see well over 100, 150, yard displays and attractions in a season. And that is how we vet. That's how, when I see something, I'm like, oh my God, that's got to be in the Hall of Shadows. Sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't. There are many things at play. Like, there are home haunts here that I would love to have at the Hall of Shadows, but I know it's already a non-starter because they use the house, like the walls of the house or the garage. They don't have flats, right? They're using their actual house as the backdrop and I know that won't port well over to, the convention center. So there's a lot of different things in play. But when I see something that I know will work, or an aspect of it that will work, and it's usually just an ask, because people know that being in the Hall of Shadows is a big deal, and it's a huge canvas that they get to create on, that thousands and thousands, like more people than would ever come to their neighborhoods, like more people than ever would see. So usually people jump at the chance to do it. And then retention is easy, because once you've done it, you just want to keep doing it. It's like boot camp. It's like I tell people, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do as a haunter, but it will also be one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. And you're installing, and they've got 2.5 days now to install everything. At some point, inevitably during that process, they are like, what in the hell did we agree to do? Like, I hate my partners. I hate my family. I just want to burn everything down. And then when they are completely beaten into the ground and exhausted, we open for 2.5 days, and they're expected to operate for like 10 hours or whatever each day, And then when they're done with that and they're just sweating blood and they don't have anything left in the tank, then they're expected to tear everything down and get it out by midnight on Sunday night when we close. It is really hard, man. It is a hellish ordeal that these guys go through. They all come back and say, "Oh my God, that was so rewarding. Can we please do it again next year?" You know? And I literally I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that is like bounced, that has said, "No, I'm not never doing that again." And so that's a blessing, because I know that we ask the impossible of these folks, and they deliver bigger and better every year. And it's just unbelievable. This year, we have the fullest Hall of Shadows we've ever had. We've got more attractions in the Hall of Shadows this year than we've ever had in the Hall of Shadows. I can drop some knowledge here for you. So the Hall of Shadows this year, the entryway is being done by Mr. Floats, and it's going to be the most extensive entryway experience that we've ever had at the Hall of Shadows. It's going to be huge in scale, and we're very close to saying what the theme is for Hall of Shadows and all that, and name all the different haunts that are going to be there. So look for that coming very soon. That's coming really, really soon. And I think that fans are going to just be out of their minds because we're going to have more in there than we've ever had. And so it's very exciting and nerve-wracking because that's a whole lot of moving parts. And I have a great ground crew on the ground. There's Ian Momey, who is a core member of our team, who does all the layout and a lot of logistical stuff for us, not just Hall of Shadows early on, but also for the show itself, vendor show floor and all that. Ian's been with us since the beginning. And then I have two on-site managers, Cameron and Gian, and they handle everything for me. I'm kind of like everywhere when the show starts, right? I try to spend a lot of time in the Hall of Shadows. Sometimes that doesn't work out. And I know that everything's running smoothly because I've got Cameron and Gian and a great team of we call them white bats that are there helping man the attractions and the lines and just make sure everything's smooth in the Hall of Shadows because it's a huge undertaking in there.
And it's dark. Literally.
Yes, it's dark. It is very dark. And no, it's all things great in the Hall of Shadows. And we've just learned what works and what doesn't work over the years. And I don't want to say that it's never easy, but it is easier now to do the Hall of Shadows than it was at the very beginning. Because, you're growing, you're trying to figure out how to do things. Now we just know how it works. Now it's just a matter of plugging the right people in. And as far as like you said, who stays and who goes, I've never once told a haunt, we don't want to have you come back. So anybody that is there, they want to come back the next year, they have a spot the next year. And so that has just been great because we have some haunts that have been with us forever. We have haunts that have been with us for years. The big Cal Haunts is a big group that for 5 years, they did our entry experience into the Hall of Shadows. And last year they had a big display. It was a train depot, a haunted train depot. This year they're going to have a medieval village set up in the middle of the Hall of Shadows. So Cal Haunts has always been there for us, and I'm sure always will be. And Mr. Floats has been there the last couple of years and has done really great things. And Fear Farm is ridiculous. They have the biggest facades I've ever seen in the Hall of Shadows, and it's just like stupid territory. It's great. And Santa Ana Haunt, they're now known as the Haunt Collective. They're going to be there. I mean, everybody that are veterans of Hall of Shadows, most of them are returning, and we're just so grateful to all of them because they blow the lid off every year, man. And the fans notice, and the fans love it. And I really think that is a huge cornerstone of what makes MIDSUMMER Scream.
Excellent. You really made me laugh because as someone who often writes stories or books with a Halloween bent, and then someone in marketing will say, well, who's your ideal demographic? The more narrowly you define it by age and gender, the better. And it's like, I don't think you understand Halloween. Like, I don't think you understand this community. It literally cuts across every line you can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, what other fandom? I mean, and it is a fandom, right? I mean, it's a fandom, it's a lifestyle. You and I both have spooky decorations up in our homes, and they don't change throughout the year. As kids, as babies, we're kind of indoctrinated into the Halloween thing. You know, you have pictures of maybe your parents taking you out as a baby dressed in a bee costume or a pumpkin costume, you know, before you even knew what the hell was going on. And then suddenly along the line, when you're a little kid, it clicks. Oh, I go up to people's doors and I get to knock on the door and they give me candy. This is amazing. This is the best night of the year type of thing, right? And then as you get older, then you discover things like haunted houses and you're like, oh, I'm really digging this. So it's a fandom kind of like none other, that it's kind of infused in our DNA before we even know what it is ourselves, right? Because anybody that I know that has kids, they have the stuff up year round, and the babies have pumpkins in their cribs and all that. And obviously the babies don't know that that's spooky stuff, you know, it's just stuff. And so it really is hardwired into our generational DNA now as fans. Halloween globally is approaching a $15 billion industry, second only to Christmas. And we have seen the traditions of Halloween trickling into other countries, be it Asia, be it the far reaches of Europe, which is really funny because the origins of Halloween come from Europe. And it's kind of weird. It bounced over here to US, exploded into this thing. That's close enough to explosive, kids. Exploded into this thing. And now it's bounced back to the UK, where they're starting to pick it up more with trick-or-treating and haunted houses and theme park events and things like that, which is very interesting to me. But look, I think it's demographics, right? So in Southern California, where things are very dense, you have communities that certainly are Norman Rockwell Halloween fishing holes, right? You have Irvine, which is a hotbed of activity for families at Halloween to go trick-or-treating. You have Los Feliz, which people do come and drop off people by the vanfuls. And they close down the streets around Silver Lake and all that. And just people go in and trick-or-treat in different neighborhoods where you're shoulder to shoulder with strangers. Burbank, you know, Burbank is always a hotbed. Valencia has become a hotbed. Santa Clarita. There are certain communities that really foster that. And then it's hard to go trick-or-treating if you live in the middle of San Francisco, right? Everybody lives in apartment buildings for the most part. That's very challenging. Same thing if you're living in a loft downtown LA. Trick-or-treating is going to be kind of sparse on Halloween night. So yeah, you got to kind of venture out to a neighborhood where you can be boots on ground to do that. I think that it comes and goes like the tide. I think that depending on what's going on in the world, there are some Halloweens and also what day it lands on, right? Like if Halloween lands on a Wednesday, kids are screwed because ain't nothing going on Halloween night. The streets have rolled up by 8 o'clock and trick-or-treating's over. Thank you very much. If Halloween lands on a Friday, oh, that's golden because we know the next few years are going to be awesome for trick-or-treating and going out and doing whatever you're going to do on Halloween. So that plays into it, of course, a lot as well. As we see Halloween grow as an industry, I think there are traditions that go along with it, the number one being trick-or-treating. I think that also is something that certainly people that are coming to MIDSUMMER SCREAM are passing down to their kids and doing that with their kids, you know. So I don't think that's in like a free fall decline or anything like that. I know that we certainly always speak out about it. You know, we're very loud and proud about being, you know, don't let trick-or-treating die. You got to keep this. Doesn't matter what it falls on. You've got to get out and trick-or-treat. And I think that people do that. I mean, you do have neighborhoods and cities where it just doesn't exist. We got them around here in Southern California. But the hotbeds, Burbank, you know, that type of thing, Santa Clarita, those kind of make up for it because people migrate to those areas and do their thing. So I think that Halloween's in good shape. I do see growth of haunted attractions into areas, including like mainland China, that have never had haunted attractions because they just don't have any basis or concept of what that even is in some cases. So I think that just as a whole, I think that Halloween is in really good shape. And I think that it will continue to morph and grow. But I think that the cornerstones of Halloween, being haunted houses, being trick-or-treating, being carving jack-o'-lanterns, putting pumpkins out, I think that that's here to stay. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think it all comes back to where you grow up and what you're exposed to, especially here in Southern California, man. If you're a kid that is born and raised here in Southern California, you don't have a choice, man. You are a Halloween kid because Southern California lives and breathes spooky season.
Thank God. When I moved from New England to Los Angeles, I was like, oh no, it's palm trees. There's no seasons. What?
There,
And then I lived there for 30 years and was just in Halloween heaven year
yeah,
after year.
there literally is nothing in the world like Southern California when it comes to Halloween and yard displays and haunted attractions. Yes, they exist outside of Southern California, but the sheer density and the sheer offering and the unreal quality of said haunts is just unequaled anywhere in the world. And I would say that is from maybe San Diego, although San Diego pales in comparison to, Los Angeles County and Inland Empire and Riverside County and all that. They pale in comparison to like the amount of yard displays and stuff that are just here, like in the greater LA area and Inland Empire and Orange County. God, it's like every other yard now has a yard display. People don't realize how blessed they are when they say they're fans and they love all this. You can go to other places in the country and be sorely disappointed by the turnout. Now, you can also go to other places in the country at Halloween and be blown away. I would imagine Salem probably does a pretty bang up job at Halloween, right? And one of my favorite places to see every year not that I'd see every year, but we've gone a couple times, is New Orleans. New Orleans at Halloween time is off the hook, man. It's great. New Orleans does it up. Well, New Orleans does everything. But I mean, haunted attractions and displays and just the vibe itself. If you ever get a chance or if you're thinking about doing it, get to New Orleans at least once at Halloween time and check out all the different offerings because it's phenomenal.
So I know that you are slowly revealing all of the great guests and celebrities that you're going to have here at MIDSUMMER SCREAM.
We're slowly lifting the veil.
The veil is thinning. But I see shortlisted, you have Art the Clown from Terrifier, Joe Bob Briggs, Darcy the Mail Girl, John Carpenter and Sandy King from Storm King Comics, Greg Nicotero. What is it like having these people from other aspects of the industry embrace MIDSUMMER SCREAM?
Well, I think it's great. I have to mention that David Markland, who's our executive director, he's my partner and co-founder, obviously. He's the one that really spearheads getting the different celebrities in and deals with all that because they fall on the show floor. And the show floor is like, obviously the whole show is his sandbox, but like I focus on Hall of Shadows. He focuses a lot on show floor. Like that's his thing. And he has an enormous job because I wouldn't even know that's like herding a million cats, man. I wouldn't even know where to start with all that. It's really funny. So we do have celebrities every year now that come out and people get really excited about that. Interestingly enough, we started out for many years specifically not having celebrities out like that, just for the sake of having celebrities. Because again, every show does that. Every convention does that. And we wanted to focus our firepower elsewhere. However, as you grow as a show and a convention, you start asking yourselves internally, well, what do we do to reach different pockets of the fandom to draw people in? Because at the end of the day, Midsummer's a business. So to continue to grow your business, you got to try to plant different crops, right? So we have branched out and we have started bringing in celebrities and we've had some great celebrities over the years. And we're very fortunate because when they get there, and it's not always easy. Sometimes they hem and haw. They don't know. It's just another show. And then they get there and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I got to do this every year. And that's the great. That's what I call getting caught in the midsummer tractor beam, right? Because you kind of fly by. You're like, yeah, it's another show. And then you're like, oh, this is not another show. This is like it. This is really good. I mean, I can say Greg Nicotero, he's fantastic with fans. And, we've wanted him to come to Midsummer for years. It was just when they were shooting Walking Dead is when we would have Midsummer. And so there was always that conflict. And Greg for years was like, oh my God, I can't because we're going to be shooting. Now that they're not doing that or not shooting as much, he has been coming and he loves Midsummer. And we love having him there. He's obviously a giant in the industry. So yeah, no, it's great. We've had celebrities over the years that are great, like Linda Blair. She very often pokes up at MIDSUMMER SCREAM, and we love having her. Of course, Art the Clown. Everybody's going to want to see Art the Clown this year, and that's great. And he's going to be there in makeup. That's going to be a really, really fun thing.
I think that's a good button to end it on. Something I like to ask everyone. Can you recommend a book, movie, game, food, or experience, past or present, that always puts you in the Halloween mood?
Well, yeah, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Mm.
I don't even have to think about that. That's on. I pop that on. I pop it on every Halloween morning, like on Halloween. That's the first thing that goes on the TV. Yeah, I mean, it's not Halloween until that happens. Just like it's not 4th of July until I play Jaws. So, there are some things that just are. I mean, Halloween lives here year round, obviously. And so there's pumpkins around all the time. There's jack-o'-lanterns around all the time. Sometimes I'm so busy at Halloween, full disclosure, I don't carve a pumpkin every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the way it is. But I got plenty of them that are already, ceramic or whatever. They're around the house year round, grinning and glowing. That's really it, right? And then it's really Halloween when somehow, somewhere you smell that fog juice. We're going right back to the beginning, right? You smell the fog juice and you're like, okay. Halloween's a weird thing because here in Southern California, we don't really have seasons, right? We're always hot adjacent here. But there are mornings where you walk out and it's cool and crisp, and maybe you hear some leaves blowing in the wind, and you're like, there's just something in the air, and you're like, oh, it's Halloween time. And that's a great feeling too.
A lot of people make the accusation that Southern California doesn't have seasons. Of course it does. They are much milder than other places. But if you spend enough time there, you do become attuned to slight changes. Now, unfortunately, October is often blazing hot during the day in Los Angeles. But at night, it does cool off. And if you go to like Griffith Park or something like that, oh, it's crisp. And the leaves have all changed. Lovely.
Yeah.
My Halloween treat for this week is going to be MIDSUMMER SCREAM, which will be held August 15th to 17th at the Long Beach Convention Center. Rick, where can people find you and MIDSUMMER SCREAM online?
MIDSUMMER SCREAM lives everywhere online as MIDSUMMER SCREAM. I think we're probably most active on Instagram and then Facebook by default because Meta. Definitely are at midsummerscream.com. Forever it was midsummerscream.org, but we did get .com, so both of them will get you there. And that's where they can find all the information when we announce different panels and presentations and guests and Hall of Shadows. All that stuff goes up there. We also will have, closer to the show, an app that people can download and use on their phones to plan, their experience and watch what they want to do. As for me, I'm not so much on social media. I am once in a while, but I'm at Rick West 999. As in 999 Happy Haunts, and that is on Instagram only. That's the only platform I'm on.
Well, Rick, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of a sneak preview and telling us about the Hall of Shadows for this year's MIDSUMMER SCREAM.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. And it was great that I bumped into you at Delusion last year, and now it's come full circle, man. And now I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Long Beach. It'll be great.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and follow. We're now on YouTube. Links are in the show notes. You can find me at jeffccarter.com and hit the link to pick up my collection, We Bleed Orange and Black, 31 fun-sized tales for Halloween. Until next time, stay spooktacular.